It's going down. Alright, Shalom Israel. First and foremost, as always, I would like to give all praises, honor, glory, respect, and blessings to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rachaha, Huadash. Salutations to the Lord's elect on the four quarters of the earth, pushing his truth and sincerity while patiently waiting for Yahweh Shai's return. And double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, which have taught us everything we know through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. And welcome to another series of It's Going Down, being brought to you by the spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. The title of this article is called NASA Scientists. Now notice how this comes from NASA scientists, in which this wasn't really, this is info that I believe that came out 2 or 3 years ago. I cannot necessarily put my thumb on it, but now, okay, the so-called white man, who predominantly is the biblical Edomites in the Holy Scriptures, who is predominantly behind NASA, okay, comes out and admit that these beings which are traveling inside of what the world calls UFOs, these UFOs, which ultimately travel throughout the entire galaxy, they travel to the spirit world to, speak to the Heavenly Father in order to, get their marching orders. And then they travel back to the physical realm, which is Earth, because the spirit world is where everybody that is living here on Earth goes to when they die. When you die, your spirit leaves your body and it goes, you basically transition to the spirit world, where you go up, because like it tells you in Ecclesiastes, who knoweth the spirit of man that goeth upward, and the spirit of beast that goeth downward to the earth. So when you die, your spirit goeth upward to the spirit world, where you receive the judgment of what you will live out in your next life, the next time you're reincarnated back here on earth. So in any ways, there's 3 different dimensions. You got the physical realm, which is earth, and then you got the spiritual realm, which is where everybody goes when they die, whether wicked or righteous, right? And then you have, you have the physical realm, which is earth, right? You have outer space, or what the world calls outer space, okay? That is the second realm. And then you have the third realm, which is the spiritual realm. The spiritual realm is where everyone's spirits go when they die. So the angels, they can travel between dimensions, between the spiritual realm and the physical realm. Okay, and the angels of the Lord, they travel around in what the world calls UFOs. So NASA scientists saw 7-foot tall aliens. They're tall, black, and look like African Americans. So these beings that are traveling around inside of these spaceships, they do not look like 9-foot alien grays, skinny, got a big stomach, a big ass forehead, black eyes, a flat nose, amphibian lips. They do not look like that, okay? And whether if you believe it or not, the Holy Bible actually tells you what these beings look like that travel around in what the world calls UFOs. Okay? The Bible tells you this, for truth's sake. Okay? And please excuse me. I don't know why it's doing this. See, that's Satan. That is Satan in the midst thereof. You know, that's Satan. Every time edification come out, here comes Satan to attack my computer, my internet. Okay, let's go to the book of Ezekiel. Okay, excuse me, Ezekiel. Chapter. Actually, we're going to go to the first chapter. Okay, Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 1. Okay, because there have been several accounts where the angels of the Heavenly Father would come down to earth to visit particular men, such as, you know, Samson's, you know, parents. You know, Samson's parents. You know, an angel of the Lord came to visit Samson's parents. In the book of Maccabees, okay, when Meliodas came to oppress the children of Israel by taking things out of their treasury, right? An angel of the Lord, the Heavenly Father sent an angel to pretty much beat the hell out that dude, okay? Knock his ass out, you know. Bro woke up with a couple of knots on his head, a black eye. He was tired, daisy, you know. And all the angels are described as looking like so-called black people with woolly hair, okay? The Heavenly Father looks like a so-called black man with pure woolly hair. The Messiah of the Holy Scriptures, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus, whose true name, which can only be uttered in the Paleo Hebrew, is Yahawashai. He looks like a so-called black man with white woolly hair. And all of this can be found in the Holy Scriptures. That's why in Revelation chapter 1 verse 3, it reads, "Blessed is he that readeth." Now it came to pass that in the 30th year, in the 4th month, in the 5th day of the month, as I was among the captives by the river of Kibar, that the heavens were opened, and I saw a vision of Yahweh. Okay. In the 5th day of the month, which was the 5th year of King Jehoiakim's captivity, the word of Yahweh, when you see the Lord in all caps, that's talking about the Heavenly Father, whose name is Yahweh. The word of Yahweh, okay, came expressly unto Ezekiel the priest. So Ezekiel was a priest, okay, the son of Buzai, in the land of the Chaldeans by the river Kibar, and the hand of Yahweh was there upon him. Now the hand of Yahweh was talking about the angels. Excuse me, that was my alarm going off. You know, I usually get up around this time to go to work, but not today. Anyways, it says, "And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind." Now when it says a whirlwind here, that whirlwind is talking about a chariot. Now I'm just going to look up whirlwind real quick, okay? Okay, and it says Rarach. Now this is the actual, okay, which is Racha, okay, and Racha is a Hebrew word for spirit or wind, as you see right here. See, wind, breath, spirit, you know. But you see, this is where discernment comes in. Okay, this was not an actual, which the angels are, you know, spiritual beings. You know that they have a celestial body. They can, you know, materialize into a celestial body. But this was not an actual whirlwind, as the Bible would have you believe. This whirlwind is an actual chariot of Israel. And for those who don't know what a chariot of Israel is, a chariot of Israel would be what the world ignorantly calls a UFO. So this was an actual so-called UFO that came to Ezekiel. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind. Now, throughout the Holy Scriptures, okay, the UFOs are often referred to as flying rolls. They are sometimes referred to as clouds, in which when you read the book of Psalms 104th chapter, and the first verse down to the 30th verse, okay, it tells you that the clouds are referred to as vehicles. Okay, that word cloud there goes back to the Hebrew word marakab, which is where you get, chariot from. And then if you go down to the Strong's definition, it says a vehicle. Okay, so I went into this word whirlwind to see if it went back to the Hebrew word marakab, and it did not. And this is where spiritual discernment comes in. Okay, because as it is written, he showeth his word unto Jacob, his laws and his statutes unto Israel. Okay, surely the Heavenly Father will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants the prophets. Now, I'm not saying I'm a servant or a prophet of the Heavenly Father, but I hope I am a servant and a prophet of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai. I speak humbly. Okay. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind. So this was a so-called UFO. And the UFOs are also referred to as whirlwinds in the Holy Scriptures as well. It says, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud. Oh, you see that? A great cloud. Let's look up that word cloud. Okay. A great cloud. Okay. Okay, and the Hebrew word there is, let's see, Ainan. Okay, Ainan. See what it says here. Ainan, appear, produce. Okay, so, but you know what? Let's get the precept to that. It says a great cloud, right? Let's go to the book of Psalms, the 104th chapter. Okay, the book of Psalms, chapter 104. Because I'm going to show you that this cloud here was not an actual cloud. Okay. The book of Psalms. Let's prove that this cloud right here in Ezekiel is an actual UFO, because the UFOs are the vehicles in which the angels of the Lord travel around in. Okay, and I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud. So when it says a great cloud, this was a huge UFO. This was a huge UFO that the angel of the Lord appeared to Ezekiel inside of. Psalms 104 verse 1. Bless Yahweh, bless Yahweh, O my soul. O Yahweh, my power, my God, which when you go into that word God is the Hebrew word. It goes back to the Hebrew word Allah, which means power. O my power, thou art very great. Thou art clothed with honor and majesty, who coverest thyself with light as with a garment, who stretcheth out the heavens like a curtain, who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters. Okay, who maketh the clouds his chariot, who walketh upon the wings of the wind. Now notice how it says, who maketh the clouds his chariot, right? Who maketh the clouds his chariot. Now let's look up this Hebrew word for chariot, because the chariots of the Lord, which are spiritual vehicles, by the way. The chariots of the Lord are what the world calls UFOs. So right here, we see the Hebrew word, okay. Okay, it's Rachawab. It's Rachawab. Okay, Rachawab. Am I saying that correctly? Rachawab, right? Now, if we go down here, right? If we go into the Hebrew Chaldee lexicon, you know, I believe I said the Strong's box, you know. You know, I was wrong about that. It's actually the Gesenius Hebrew Chaldee lexicon. And what do we see right here? Okay. Let's do this. Okay. What do we see right there? We see vehicle, right? Vehicle, chariot. So a car that a person drives in, that's it, because you have, when it comes to chariots, there's two different types of chariots as far as we know, right? You have the carnal chariots, which was created by men's hands, which will be considered as physical chariots, right, here on earth. And then you have spiritual chariots, which will be the vehicles that the Heavenly Father's angels travel around in which the world calls UFOs. So you have spiritual vehicles, what the world calls UFOs, that the Heavenly Father's angels travel around in. And then you have physical chariots, which was created by actual people down here on the earth. So cars will be considered chariots. But the most basic chariot would be a horse carrying a carriage, right? That would be considered a chariot, right? A horse with a carriage attached to it. Okay? So you got that. But then you got the cars. A car is a chariot. A truck is a chariot. A bus is a chariot. And these are all carnal chariots. These are all carnal chariots, right? And the carriage, because the carriage was created by men. Okay? So yeah, the carriage, carnal chariot, right? Car, carnal chariot. Truck, carnal chariot. Bus, carnal chariot. Semi-truck, carnal chariot. An airplane, that's a carnal chariot. A jet, carnal chariot. Helicopter, carnal chariot. But then you have what the world calls UFOs, which the angels of the Heavenly Father travel in, which can materialize, they can dematerialize, they can turn invisible, they can teleport, they can travel through portals, they create portals. They can, these UFOs can change, they can change form, they can change shape. Okay? You know, they can disperse into a flock of birds. You would never know if there was a UFO around you. Okay? The UFOs can disguise themselves as a group of birds flying through the air. Do you know how many times people don't shot at birds and completely missed, even though it was right on point with their target? Because those were not actual birds, man. Those were UFOs. And let me tell you this much: you're not going to shoot a UFO. You're not going to shoot and hit a UFO. Your bullets is going to pass right through them. Okay? Because these UFOs can also become as the wind. You know? These UFOs can pass through objects. They can fly around the sun. They can fly on the sun. Okay? They can go as deep They can go as deep underwater as much as they want to and not be phased. Okay? These are spiritual vehicles. They can, okay, these UFOs can also travel between dimensions. So these are, the UFOs are spiritual vehicles. They are spiritual chariots. So if we go back, right? Let's go ahead and put this back down to 125. Okay. Let's read it again. Psalms 104 verse 3. Who laid the beams of his chambers in the waters? Who maketh the clouds his chariot? Who maketh the clouds his chariot? So whenever you see the word cloud in the Holy Scriptures, know that sometimes it's talking about what the world calls a UFO. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud. So this was a great chariot that the angels of the Heavenly Father came in. Okay? So, you know, these NASA scientists, okay, you know, they're coming out, basically, they're coming out with the truth. They're saying that they saw 7-foot men come out of these UFOs. Okay? These spacecrafts. Okay? A former NASA research scientist has come forward with claims of an alien landing at a U.S. air base. Okay? You see, and for decades and generations, these devils, because the Holy Scriptures calls these Edomites the devil, right? Which, when you go into that word devil, it goes back to the Greek word diabolus, which means a man, pertaining to a man by whom opposing the will of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh. And that's talking about a man here on earth, okay, which will be the Edomites, which will be the self-proclaimed white man. Okay, they are the Edomites of the Holy Scriptures, and they are also known as the devil and the wicked. And when you go into that word devil, it also goes back to the Latin word diabolos, which means a deceiver, a liar. So for generations, these Edomites have deceived the world into believing that these strange-looking figures, you know, that they're bald head, they're 8 feet tall, they're gray, they got big, large black eyes, buggy eyes, they got a flat nose, okay? They got monkey lips, and basically they're skinny, you know, they're skinny, but somehow they got a pot belly, right? They got a pot belly and some skinny legs. They have, for generations, they have taught that alien grays travel in these UFOs. Okay, so they have lied to the world for decades and generations, you know, and if not alien grays, then some hideous looking creature like from the movie Alien versus Predator. Okay, you know, or you know, from Independence Day, you know, just showing some monstrous looking creatures. Nah, man. Nah. Okay. Those are angels of the Lord traveling in with the world in those UFOs. Okay. And guess what? They look like so-called Black Americans. They look like so-called Negroes. Very dark brown skin and woolly hair. And what he describes is unlike anything we've ever been told. Okay? Dr. Norman Burgon, a respected aerospace engineer, has broken decades of silence to detail an astonishing encounter involving what he describes as a mile-long spacecraft and hundreds of extraterrestrial beings. Okay? And he's going to tell you what these extraterrestrial beings look like. According to Berggruen, the incident occurred during a classified military operation, details of which have been buried under layers of national security for decades. The ship, he alleges, touched down on U.S. soil at a remote Air Force installation where witnesses, now either deceased or sworn to secrecy, right? Because the so-called white man, he do not want the Israelites, which are the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native Indians, the true biblical Israelites, okay? He do not want the Israelites to know that these beings which travel around inside of what the world calls UFOs look like so-called black men. And they're all so-called black men, okay? There ain't no black women traveling in these UFOs. They're all black men, or so-called, and we say so-called black men because there's no such thing as a black man. You see the background? You see the background of my screen right here, where my cursor is at? That is black. Ain't nobody on the planet this color. Okay, we are different shades. We are different shades of brown. That's why we say so-called black men, because the angels are really very dark brown-skinned men with woolly hair, and the angel's skin complexion is so dark brown that they appear black, but they're not black. They're just a very, very dark brownish color, as Ezekiel the first chapter is going to describe to you. Okay, so they were sworn to secrecy because Esau, so-called white man, he knows that you the so-called white man, and I'm talking about the so-called elites who rule this world in secrecy, okay? The so-called elites who call themselves Rothschilds and Rockefellers, okay? They know that you so-called Negro, Latino, and Native Indians are the true biblical Israelites, okay? And a matter of fact, the so-called elites, they have all of these top secret files, okay? They have all of these top secret documentations, okay? And they have everybody's nationality on this planet, okay? Dating back to thousands of years. So the so-called elites, they know that their line goes back to Esau, Edom. And I'm talking about the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. They know that their line goes back to Esau in the Holy Scriptures. Okay? And they know that their people, they know that their people's line goes back to Esau in the Holy Scriptures. They know this. And they know that you, the so-called elites, they know that you so-called Negro, Latino, and Native Indians, they know that y'all are the true biblical Israelites, and that y'all line goes back to Jacob in the Holy Scriptures. Okay, Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. Okay. This is fair use. I am not using this video for monetary gain, but for educational purposes. This is fair use.
Picture, there is one image there that shows black people getting off.
So people with dark skin getting off.
Not dark, black.
Black skin.
Really black. Yeah.
Were they tall?
Yes.
Very tall?
Yeah.
How tall? Do you know?
Well, we got up the doorway. I don't know how high that is, but
Well, what?
they say 7 feet would be probably a conservative estimate.
Huge cigar-shaped ship appeared over the Air Force base. These cigar-shaped ships were over a mile in length. One of them landed on the airport landing strip area. The back of this craft opened up, and several hundred young men with huge heavy weapons came out of two sides of the ship and formed a protection line around the ship. And the people at that Air Force base, the commander, had a meeting with the individuals that were aboard this ship. And this particular race that landed those ships and that are seen in these huge cigar-shaped ships, they are a black race. They look like African Americans. They were about 6'4", 6'5", huge weapons. And if you've ever seen a race of people that were conquerors, that had never been conquered, they've got this look about them of arrogance. That's exactly what these extraterrestrials had, and they informed these people at this American Air Force base that not only were they from a militaristic society, but they had control a large portion of the galaxy that we live in.
All right, so hey, you heard it, right? It's just, you know.
There is one image there that shows black people getting off.
So people with dark skin getting off.
Not dark, black.
Black skin.
Really black. Yeah.
Were they tall?
Yes.
Very tall?
Yeah.
How tall? Do you know?
Well, we got up the doorway. I don't know how high that is, but
Well, what?
it's safe.
So you see, the angels of the Heavenly Father look like so-called black men, okay? And Esau pretty much know this because he had biblical scholars, and I'm talking about top biblical scholars that read the Holy Scriptures thoroughly, and they basically break it down to them. Like, look, these angels, which used to appear to men back in the ancient world, these angels would appear to men in what the world calls UFOs, and when they would get out the UFOs, they would have the appearance of a black person. Okay, so the Bible is real, man. Okay, so it says, and I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud. Now, a great cloud will be a huge UFO. Now, in this video, they said that the cigar-shaped UFO, right? Because it was in the shape of a cigar or cylinder or whatever. They said that it was a mile long. Now, a mile long is huge. Okay? A mile long can almost cover a neighborhood. Okay, that's how long a mile is. Some neighborhoods are a mile long. Okay. Matter of fact, let's do this. Let's go to Google and type in how far is a mile? Excuse me, man. How far is a mile? A mile is 5,280 feet long. Okay, so 5,280 feet long. That's a gigantic UFO. Okay, so this UFO was 5,820 feet long. Okay, so the chariots of the Heavenly Father are huge. So this UFO that appeared to Ezekiel was huge. It was great, and a fire enfolding in itself, right? Because when you look at a so-called UFO that's traveling through the stars up in the night sky, they look like a moving ball of fire, right? A moving light. It says, and a brightness was about it. Yeah, because they have a bright light around them. And out of the midst thereof, as the color of amber. Amber is the color of gold. Okay, you look at the sun The sun is the color of gold. A lot of people will say well, the sun is yellow. No, the sun is the color of gold. It only appears yellow because of how bright it is. But if you ever look at gold shining extremely brightly, it would appear yellow from afar. But it's actually amber. And for those who don't know, amber is like a orangish, a extremely light brownish orangish color. So gold has like a form of melanin in it, so you can better understand. Or not even no. Okay, you know what, let's do this. How do you describe the color of gold? Okay, the color gold, the color is typically described as a bright metallic yellow, okay, with warm orange tinge and with warm orange tinged, so like a orangish, I was gonna say a yellowish orangish color, and that's not what gold looks like, okay? And a matter of fact, let's do this. Let's type in gold, okay, and let's go to images. See, here you go. Gold. This is what gold. See that? Gold is like a orangish, yellowish color, or you could say a very because orange is basically a very light brownish color. Because believe it or not, orange is a derivative of brown. Okay. And let's just fact check that. Is orange is orange a derivative of brown? Because we know yellow is a derivative of brown, right? No, orange is not a derivative of brown. While brown can be created by darkening orange, you see, that's the devil right there. See, here it is. Brown can be created by darkening orange, right? So what happens if you light up brown? If you light up brown, you're gonna get orange. But you see, that's why you got to learn how to pick the meat up the bones. So yes, brown is a derivative of orange. Okay. Like I said, while brown can be created by darkening orange, okay. So if you darken orange, you get brown. So what happens if you lighten brown? If you light up brown, you're gonna get orange, right? Or you're gonna get a form of orange. But anyways, let's go back. Okay. So orange, so like so gold is like a orangish, yellowish. Gold is like a dark orangish mixed with yellowish color. It's really hard to describe gold because it is such a precious metal, See, here's a good idea of what gold looks like. You see that? It's like a, and it even has like a brownish color to it, don't it? But it's actually, it's not a brownish color. It's just you know, and there's different varieties of gold. You got some gold that are like that's like a bright orangish yellowish color. You got some gold that appears more yellowish than orangish. Then you got some gold such as this, right? You got some gold such as this that appear as a orangish yellowish color. Okay, so gold is one of those precious metals. But okay, let's exit out that, right? So this UFOs was like the color of amber. So this was a bright UFO, right? Out of the midst of the fire. So this UFO looked like a moving star. Like, have you ever heard the term shooting star before? Well, that comes from, you know, so-called UFOs, you know, dashing through the night sky, appearing as a very bright color, with the appearance of a star, because the stars up in the night sky are very, very bright. The only reason why they appear dim is because they're very far from the earth. The stars are very, very far from the earth. That's why some stars appear dim. You know, some stars appear as lights. But trust me, if you get really close to a star, if you get very, very close to the stars at night, like if you was to take a spaceship up into outer space and you got very, very close to a star, they're very, very, very bright. Okay, so, you know, if you was to look at a chariot would resemble a star up close. You know, that's why whenever you see like a meteorite, if you ever seen a meteorite, a very bright meteorite passing through the night sky at night, it will literally light up the whole night sky, making the sky look like a morning sky before, you know, completely passing through the night sky, and then the night sky goes completely dark where it shows the stars. Okay, so these chariots are bright. They have these UFOs can have the appearance of stars. Okay, because stars have fire around it, you know. Also, out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures. These 4 living creatures are the angels. So these are angels coming out of these UFOs. So out of the midst thereof, meaning out of the midst thereof basically means, you know, came out of these UFOs thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man, and every one had 4 faces. Now, they did not have 4. Each angel did not have 4 faces, as if they had a face on the front, a face on each side of their heads, and then a face on the back of their head. No, and you know that's not what the angels look like. Basically, these were 4 creatures, and each of these angels had their own face. Okay, so they had their own face. Everyone had 4 faces, and everyone had 4 wings. So each of these angels had 4 wings. Okay, 2 wings on the upper part of their back, and 2 wings on the lower part of their back. Okay, because some angels actually do have wings. Okay, it says, and their feet were straight feet, right? Just like human feet, right? Straight feet like human feet. And the sole of their feet was the sole of a calf's foot. Now, Apostle Tahar went into this. Okay, their foot was described as a calf's foot because they wore ninja boots. Okay, they had on ninja boots. As a matter of fact, let's go to Google and type in ninja boots to give you a better understanding of what this is talking about. Let me see. You know what? Let's just type in Google. Okay, and let's type in ninja boot or ninja. Here we go. Okay, here you go. Okay, and if you look at a calf's foot, right, it splits. The hoof splits. And the hoof splits. You know, kind of like where the big toe is at, right? So this is what the angels had on. So of course the angels have 5 toes on each foot, you know. So the angels had on ninja boots, okay. So that's why it says the sole of it says, and their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot, because they had on ninja boots. It says, and they sparkled. So listen closely. And they, talking about the skin complexion of these angels, okay, they sparkled like the color of burnished brass. So this is their skin complexion. This is what they look like, right? We all know that so-called black people, okay, we all know that so-called black people have woolly hair. So these angels had woolly hair, and they sparkled like in color to burnished brass. Okay. Let's type in burnished brass. Okay. So they sparkle like in color to burnished brass. Let's go to images. Woo! Beautiful. You see that? This is what burnished brass look like. It's a very dark brownish color. So the angels were like this skin complexion. Okay? Let's look some more. Bam. Look at that. Large burnished brass ball with riser. What color is that? That's a very dark brownish color. So the skin complexion of the angels, were like unto this color right here. This is burnished brass. Okay? So in their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like the color of burnished brass. So their skin complexion had a glow around them, okay? So these angels, which appeared to Ezekiel, they looked like so-called black men, okay? And they had the hands of a man. Okay? So they had 8 fingers and 2 thumbs. Okay? Their wings on their 4 sides. Okay? Oh, okay. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Close that out. Okay? It says, under their wings on their 4 sides, and they 4 had their faces. You see that? They 4 had their faces. So each angel had their own face. Okay? Okay? Their wings were joined one to another. They turned not when they went. They went everyone straight forward. Okay? As for the likeness of their faces, they 4 had the face of a man. Oh wait, they had the face of a man. So we know that if you look at a grown ass so-called black man, okay, he has a mustache, he has a beard, okay, he has facial hair, okay, he has eyebrows, okay, he has eyes, okay, brown and white eyes, or very dark brown and white eyes. Okay. Okay. Very dark brown and white eyes, you know. And they had woolly hair on their head. You see? So Ezekiel is telling you that these angels look like so-called black men. These angels look like very dark brown-skinned men. These angels looked like very dark brown-skinned men with woolly hair. As for the likeness of their faces, they therefore had the face of a man. Okay? And the face of a lion. Now they didn't look like their faces didn't look like an actual lion. Okay? A lion is just a metaphor for they had a terrifying look about them. Okay? If somebody saw a lion, they would be terrified, right? A lion also represents boldness. A lion also represents boldness. So these angels, which look like so-called black men, they had a bold look about them. So the angel on the right side had a bold look about him. Okay? And therefore had the face of an ox on the left side. So the angel on the left side, had a ox is known for strength. So they had the look of strength about them, right? And therefore also had the face of an eagle. Okay? And the eagle is known for its proud look. So these angels had a proud look about them, So these angels had a bold, a strong, and a proud look about them. So you can better understand. And if you notice, they only listed 3 animals: a lion, an ox, and an eagle, showing you that these angels did not have 4 faces on their head. Okay, it's just telling you that Ezekiel is just describing to you the type of looks they had on their faces. Okay, they had a bold look on their face, the look of strength on their face, and they had the look of pride on their face, because the eagle's known for pride, right? It says, "Thus were their faces, and their wings were stretched upward. 2 wings of every one were joined one to another, and 2 covered their body." 2 covered their bodies. Okay, so these wings were huge. Okay, it says, "And they went every one straight forward whither the Spirit was to go. They went, and they turned not when they went." Okay. As for the likeness of the living creatures, this is going into the description of the angels. Their appearance was like burning coals of fire. Okay, and we know predominantly coals is a very, 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 very dark brownish color. Okay, and like the appearance of lamps, right? So these, if you ever watch like Dragon Ball Z, whenever they go to charge up and you just see like this aura around them, aura mixed with like lightning. That's kind of like what the angels had around them. They had like this extremely powerful aura about them. Okay, because we know lamps is known for giving off light, so these were bright auras. And they show you that in other anime too. Hunter x Hunter. Demon Slayer is another one. It says, "It went up and down among the living creatures," right? "And the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning." Woo! So these angels were dreadful, and the living creatures ran and returned as the appearance of a flash of lightning. Yeah, Because hey, those UFOs can move as those UFOs can move like lightning, man, and even faster, 3 times faster the speed of lightning. Okay, if it wanted to, and way faster than that, way faster than that. Because remember, these angels travel throughout the galaxy, so of course they will have to travel, way faster than lightning, right? Now, as I beheld the living creatures, behold, one wheel upon the earth by the living creatures, with his 4 faces. Okay? The appearance of the wheels and their work was like unto the color of a beryl. And now this is going into the description of the UFO. So, the UFO had the appearance of a wheel. Okay, and the appearance of the wheels and their work was like unto the color of beryl. Beryl is the color of a precious, dark greenish color. Beryl will be like a precious dark greenish color. You got certain gemstones that are the appearance of beryl. Okay, and they 4 had one likeness, and their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. Now, to show you that this was a UFO that came to Ezekiel, let's go to Google, or as a matter of fact, better yet, I like the images that Bing gives you. Let's go to Bing, go to images, right? And then let's type in UFOs. Okay. Now, when you look at a UFO, right, they have the appearance of a wheel within a wheel. Okay. Now, I'm trying to find that perfect description. Let's see. Wheel within a wheel. You see, because when you look at these type of UFOs here, they have the appearance of a wheel within a wheel. Okay, a wheel within a wheel, because a wheel is in the shape of a circle, right? So it's like a circle within a circle. This is the type of UFO that Ezekiel saw. Okay, a wheel within a wheel. Okay, here's a good one. Okay, you see that? Because one part will rotate in one way and another part will rotate in the opposite direction. Okay, this is an example of a wheel within a wheel. Okay, here's another one. Okay, look at that. See that? A wheel within a wheel. Okay, a wheel within a wheel. So this is the type of UFO that Ezekiel saw. Okay, it says, and their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. That's what the UFO looked like that Ezekiel saw. And there's different varieties of not every UFO is going to look like a wheel within a wheel like these, you know. Here's another example. See this? A wheel within a wheel. Okay. Look at that. A wheel within a wheel. So that pretty much beats the point. Okay. Bergeron describes the beings that exited the craft as a black race of extraterrestrials, around 7 feet tall, muscular, and with the bearing of a warrior class. They had the look of conquerors who had never been conquered, he stated in a rare interview. There was a kind of arrogance in their walk, because they're the angels of the Lord, man. These were not grays, not little green men. These were beings of power. These are beings of power, because the angels of the Heavenly Father are eternal. Okay? They don't get hungry. They never get tired. They don't have to sleep. They do not have a sex drive. They are austere men. And they can pretty much go anywhere. They can be anywhere at any time. So what these so-called white men saw were the angels of the Lord.
7 feet would be probably a conservative estimate.
Huge cigar-shaped ship appeared over the Air Force Base. These cigar-shaped ships were over a mile in length. One of them landed on the airport landing strip area. The back of this craft opened up, and several hundred young men with huge, heavy weapons came out of two sides of the ship and formed a protection line around the ship. And the people at that Air Force base, the commander, had a meeting with the individuals that were aboard this ship. And this particular race that landed those ships and that are seen in these huge cigar-shaped ships, they are a black race. They look like African Americans. They were about 6'4", 6'5", huge weapons. And if you've ever seen a race of people that were conquerors, that had never been conquered, they've got this look about them of arrogance. That's exactly what these extraterrestrials had, and they informed these people at this American Air Force base that not only were they from a militaristic society, but they had control a large portion of the galaxy that we live in.
With that, I'm gonna say shalom. It's going down. It's on to the next one.